heartily greet all the honorable dignitaries, participants, and delegates here at the virtual platform. The topic of today's International E-Conference is Inspiring Young Minds. The college, Sri Kumar Swami College, Ausa, is affiliated to Swami Ramananda Tirth Marathwada University, Nanded. The college is taking number of steps and innovative activities for the benefit, enhancement, and enrichment of knowledge of students, researchers, teachers, academicians, intellectuals, and knowledge seekers. All these activities are simultaneously going on very successfully, and behind it, there is meticulous planning and successful implementation by the chief organizer, Honorable Principal Dr. M. Bedkar, sir. At the outset of this International E-Conference, I welcome you, sir, as the chairperson of this International E-Conference. Today, I am very happy to make all the participants and delegates know that among us, we are having Honorable Dignitary Trisha DePasquale ma'am from USA, who is going to enlighten us, deliver her keynote speech on the topic, Inspiring Young Minds. I would like to invite Honorable Trisha DePasquale ma'am from USA for her keynote speech and presentation. Please, ma'am, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Bedkar and your team for having me join you today. My name is Trisha DePasquale, and I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in the United States. I am a kindergarten teacher, so I teach 5- and 6-year-olds. We are having school right now, so my students just went outside to go play for a little while with my teaching assistant. So you might have some interruptions. They might be popping in the classroom real quick. But teaching the students about the world has been a passion of mine for as long as I have been teaching. Over the years, I've adapted different ways and different learning techniques to help kids teach them more about the world. It is my hope that today you'll walk away from this session with some new ideas to share with other educators and see the importance of teaching students about the world we live in. I was 19 years old the first time I ever flew on an airplane. My family flew from the United States to Germany and spent 3 weeks traveling around Europe. It was fascinating for me to see the different landscapes and experience different cultures. I returned from that trip with a desire to see more of the world. A few years later, my sister and her husband moved to Shanghai, China, to teach at an international school there. I was attending university at the time, preparing to become a teacher. I was able to teach at their school in Shanghai for my last semester of university. I spent 4 months there in Shanghai, teaching children from all over the world. My students were from 17 different countries, including India, Japan, Malaysia, many different European countries, and the United States. Living and teaching abroad helped me gain a better understanding of the world. I returned to the United States, graduated from my university, and began teaching where I am here now in Florida. Since then, I have taught children between the ages of 5 to 9 years old. There is so much learning that takes place during these years. This is a time where children start developing a curiosity about the world and how it works. I use the traveling that I do around the world to inspire children to learn as much about it as they can. So today, I'll share with you a few ways on how I do this. And it's my hope that maybe you can share some of these ideas with other educators that you know, or perhaps with the children too that you know. So I have some slides here, and I'm going to walk you through and go through these with you. Okay, so why teach children about the world? Why should we teach kids about the world? A lot of times, I think people feel like children are too little to comprehend or to learn a lot about different places around the world, but my students have shown me differently. When you teach children about the world at a young age, they learn that the world doesn't revolve around them. Where I live here in Florida, a lot of the children that I know, they think that the world is just all about them. It's just what they want to do and what they want to see. But teaching them at a young age shows them that there are so many places to explore. It opens their eyes to other surroundings. They know that other places exist and there's more to the world than just where we live right here. They develop an understanding and an appreciation for different cultures. And they start to learn how the world works. For example, today, when I told my class that I was going to be speaking to all of you in India, they were very excited to learn that it is about 7:30 at night for you guys. Well, here in the US, for us, it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. And so they were very curious to know about your day. They thought that it was really interesting that Tuesday is already coming to an end for you, while it is just really beginning here for us. They had a lot of questions about that, and they wanted me to tell everybody here on the session hi. Kids also start to learn about different seasons. For example, they learn that while it is winter time in Australia, it is the summer for us here in the States. And so they start to gain a bigger perspective on just how it all works, how we are all able to be on this planet together and work together. Okay. Over the years, I've started using the traveling that I do as a way to show children about the world. And so what I started doing on some of my trips, I would take pictures and videos, and I would share them with the students that were in my class. And every Friday, it just was a nice way to end the week. So teaching here in the US, we teach from Monday. We have school from Monday to Friday. And so on Friday, I would teach them about one place that I have traveled to. I would show them pictures and videos, and then I would have the students draw a picture of what they would like to do in that country. And over the years, I started calling these lessons passport adventures. We started pretending as if we were traveling to that country. So today I want to walk you through a little bit of a passport adventure that I do with my students, because I now offer these to other teachers. Anybody can access them, and they can use them with their classes too. So I'll show you just how I help children use their imagination and learn about the world in fun and exciting ways. Okay, so today I'm going to show you a little bit about a passport adventure that I have here from Cairo, Egypt. The first thing that I do with children is that we locate where the country is on a map, or the city where we're going to be going to. So, for example, Cairo is in the country of Egypt, which is in Africa. So I have the students locate where Africa is on the map. And then I talk a little bit more about that region. So since we're pretending to go to Egypt, I would talk to them a little bit about the Middle East and how that's a group of countries in Southwest Asia and Northern Africa. Egypt is part of the Middle East. So the students learn that. They also take a look at the country's flag. So they'll notice that the Egyptian flag is red, white, and black. And then we compare it to our flag, to the US flag, and then we see what is similar and what is different. So that's how I get the children started with learning a little bit about where we're learning about. Now, something that I love to do with children is help them use their imagination. I think that a big problem we have here in the States and possibly around the world is that a lot of times children don't have the opportunity to use their imagination. They like to play on phones, on the computers, and they don't get to They don't get to draw and use their imagination like they should. So with my students, we pretend like we're actually traveling to these countries. So for this lesson, we pretend as if we're going to Cairo. And I tell them to open up their imaginary suitcases and pretend to pack these items. So I would tell them, okay, everybody, we're going to Cairo. You need to open your suitcase. You need to pack a t-shirt. You need to pack a long skirt if you would like, a long sleeve shirt, a pair of pants, shoes, a hat, a phone, and a passport. And then I would ask them to pack some other items. And we talk about how in some places around the world, people dress differently. And so, for example, in Egypt, people will dress conservatively. So they need to pack, if they were going to Egypt, they would need to pack shirts that would cover their shoulders, and they would need to pack, pants, something that would cover their legs. Okay, so now I always let the students have a few moments to pretend to pack what they would like to take. So if any of you would like to unmute your microphone and tell me something that you would take with you on a trip, feel free to do so. Okay. If you're unable to mute too, that's okay. But this is where children would call out that they would like to take a toy or they would like to bring some snacks. And they tell me some things that they like to take with them on a trip. Okay. So once the students have learned what they need to take if they were going to go visit that place, then they go ahead and we start learning a little bit more about that area. So Egypt, a lot of people think of the pyramids when they think of Egypt. And so then I would teach the students a little bit more about the pyramids and give them that information that you see there. Now, here in the US, we don't have camels. I know that there are camels in India, but here in the US, children don't know much about camels. And so that is one of the things that I like to tell them about. I like to talk to them about the different kinds of animals that they would see if they were to go to visit this place. So there are camels in Egypt. And so then I have my students use their imagination and we pretend like we're going to go on a camel ride. Okay, let's go ahead here. Oh, hold on one moment. I'm unable to go to the next slide. Hold on one moment, please. This is not going to the next slide. Hold on one moment, please. Sorry, hold on one moment. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Let's see if this will work now.
No issue, madam. You do it slowly.
Okay.
We are eager to listen you. If there is time, no problem. You take it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, I think you can see the camel there. Okay. Well, the first time that I rode a camel, I did not know how to ride one. And I did not know that when a camel stands up, that its back legs go up first. And I almost fell over and landed on top of the camel. So in this lesson, I teach students to take their chair. So I have one of my students' chairs right here. I'll tell them to take their chair, turn it around, and they then sit on their chair. And they pretend that their chair is a camel. And then I have the students lean forward as if they're getting up and then lean back to show that they're now on a camel. So this is one of the ways that I help the students use their imagination to then continue to ride. And then I show them some videos of pictures of what it looks like to be riding on a camel. All right. When I'm done showing the students the pictures and the videos, I have them draw pictures of what they learned about that area. And so on the screen here, you can see a few pictures of some work from students that are from the United States that are in their ages 5 to 7 years old. The top left picture is a child in spending time in Dubai, going down the sand dunes in the desert. The top right picture is a drawing of Havana, Cuba. This student drew different colored buildings and different colored cars. The bottom left is a picture of a child's drawing from Stockholm, Sweden. This child drew the Vasa, which was a Viking ship that sank on its first trip in Stockholm. And so the child drew the ship sinking in the water. And the bottom right is a picture of pyramids in Egypt. So letting children explore with the chance to draw and write what they have learned is a way to help them understand a little bit more too. And my students will often draw pictures of people that they want to travel with to someday if they actually get to go to visit these places. All right. Now, a lot of people tell me, I know that I have been fortunate enough to visit lots of different places. And so some people will tell me, okay, those experiences that you have had are great, but I'm not an avid traveler. I don't travel. That's okay. If you have never left your country before, that's okay. We can still teach kids about the world. When we teach kids about the world at a young age, it helps them develop an understanding and appreciation for it. And so whether you are travel around the world or you do not, there's still so much that we can teach children. You don't have to go on trips like I have been on in order to show people the world. All right. So these are some ways, some examples of how people can teach kids about the world. They can take advantage of friends, family, or students traveling. If I have a student that might be traveling even just 1 or 2 hours away from where we live, I'll tell them to take some pictures and share them with the class when they return. We do the same with family members. If they have relatives that live that either live far away from here or they're going to go visit, I ask them to send us some pictures and videos. Cultural celebrations are a great way to learn more about the different regions. And I also offer on my website, I have free lessons for teachers that teachers can download and they can use with their students. Now, one of the things that I like to do too with my students, I have said that I like to use their imagination. And so what I do is we pretend to spend an entire day flying to China. As I mentioned before, I lived in China for a few months with my sister, and I was there for the Chinese New Year. So that was a big celebration over there. And so I brought my ideas from the Chinese New Year back here to the States to do with my students. So on this particular day, what I do is I turn my classroom around and I make it look like an airplane. So you can see there in the slide, you can see that the chairs get set up in rows like on an airplane. And I put coverings on the walls to cover up everything else. And so it helps the students pretend like they're on an airplane. My assistants and I dress up as flight attendants to make them feel like we're the real thing. The students come to school that day, and I take their backpacks and I put a luggage tag around their backpack to make it look like it's going to go on an airplane. I also use boarding passes for my students that look like this. So I've got these two. So my students receive a boarding pass, and this is their ticket, and they use this to along with their passports. Now here I have these pretend passports. They are just stickers. Doesn't do anything. They would not be able to go anywhere for real with these, but there's stickers in here. And so they use this too, and they pretend like they are getting ready to go flying. I show them a little safety video before we start, and then we're cleared for takeoff. My students then watch a YouTube video of an airplane taking off from here in Florida, and they see the videos then of the airplane flying through the clouds. Okay. So here, some of these pictures that I have here are when my students get really excited. The student that you see in these pictures, he had 2 older brothers that has done this with me before when they were in my class. And so they told him all about it and how he needs to bring a book to read during the day. And so he brought one of his brother's books with him that day. The students do everything in their seats. We spend the entire day pretending like we're flying to China. So the students even eat their food on their laps like they would if they were on an airplane. So you can see the same boy here. He's eating some of his lunch, some of his food on his lap. Everything the kids do that day is done in their laps, in their airplane seats. So they work on their laps, they do all their writing, and we pretend to spend the whole day flying to China. I wanted children to learn just how long it takes to travel to places on the other side of the world for us. So for China, for me, it takes about 13 or 14 hours to fly there. And so we try to spend as much of the day as possible pretending to fly on an airplane. At the end of the day, when it is almost time to go home, I tell the students that it is time for them to pretend to go to sleep. And then I want them to pretend to dream about going home that day and sleeping in their own beds. The next day, when they come back to school, we pretend like we have arrived in China. They get their backpacks back, and which you can see the girls doing here. They get their backpacks back, and they tell me how their flight went. I put a stamp in their passport, and that makes their trip complete. So that is one way that I help children use their imagination to pretend like they are traveling around the world. There are so many different ways my students over the years have shown me that they love learning about the world. So I have someone to show you. This guy here, he belongs to one of my students, and we call him World because he's a globe. He just looks like a person with a face and arms. The one morning I came to school, I arrived to school, and I saw this was sitting on my desk, and I didn't know where it had come from. I didn't know who it belonged to. And then my student came into the classroom, and he said to me excitedly, he said, "Look, I brought World today." My students are not allowed to bring toys from home into school. And so I asked him, I said, "Well, why did you bring him?" And he said, "Because we're going on a passport adventure today. You're teaching us today about Cuba." So I thought I could bring World to show everybody where Cuba was. And I thought, wow, that was such a great idea. So my student brought him today because he knew I was going to be speaking to all of you, and he wanted you guys to see World. Then there was one time where we had a math lesson. The students were using cubes like what I have here, and they were counting. They were doing counting with the cubes. And I saw some of my students take their cubes like this, and they started going like this, and they started pretending to spray each other like this. And I said, "Girls, why are you spraying yourself? What are you doing?" And they said, "Mrs. DePasquale, you are taking us to Dubai today, and you said that Dubai is really hot. So we needed to put sunscreen on." So the girls were pretending like this was sunscreen, and they were pretending to rub it on their faces to protect their skin from the sun from Dubai. And so Moments like that have shown me that kids love learning about the world and they're able to remember a lot of information. My students will talk about different places around the world weeks after we've brought them up. In fact, I have this here too to show. One of my students, we learned about India earlier in the school year. And a few weeks later, one of my students came in and she drew me a picture of the Taj Mahal. It had been a few weeks since we had talked about India and I'd shown them a picture of the Taj Mahal, but she drew this for me just from her memory. So children are able to learn so much about the world, and it's our job to be able to teach them. Now, I also teach to students about places around the United States. And I want kids to learn that their home country where they live, whether they live in India or in the United States or Japan or wherever they live, I want kids to learn that the country that they are from is really special too. So I have different lessons that I do with my students. I teach them. I call these lessons American adventures. I tell the students that they do not need a passport. They don't need a passport for these lessons because you don't need a passport for us to travel around the U.S. And so I want everybody to know that kids need to learn about the country that they live into. As I showed you before with my picture from my student of the Taj Mahal. Now, I have never been to India, but I'm sure that there are so many places that I would need to go visit sometime if I do go to India, more than just the Taj Mahal. And so students need to learn about all of these places that and help be proud of the country that they live in. So as a thank you today for listening to me speak, if you would like to have these boarding passes, or if you know somebody that would like to use these, they are editable. And you can give these to somebody else that you know or use them yourself. But I do have these available for free today. I would love to stay connected with all of you. So if you have any questions, this is a way to get a hold of me. You can get a hold of me. You can reach me through LinkedIn. I do have my website right there, and also on Instagram too. There's my name. And as I said too, if you want to scan that QR code, if you're able to, I can send you the boarding passes, or you can send me a message, and I can do that too. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful presentation on the topic Inspiring Young Minds. You have given the details regarding the topic. It was so interesting one, and really it is very clear, the points you have cleared about the topic. Now I request all participants, if you have any query, please come ahead and discuss with keynote speaker. Dear participants.
Good evening, Dr. Trisha. This is Dr. Ahmed from Hyderabad, India. Very interesting topic, inspiring young mind. These days, really, it's a very difficult task to inspire the young minds. The reason is that because of the social media influence. So the media is really making the youngsters or young minds deviate from their objective, actually what are their goals of their lives. So in this context, my simple question is that what way you can really inspire them so that they can also be use social media and can also be inspired by us.
I think it was a little hard to understand. I think you were kind of cutting a little bit out. Are you asking how we can use a positive way to use social media? I do think that adults need to help control how much time they are spending on social media, and adults, the responsibility really falls on the adults that the children are with. They need to know what their child is looking at on social media, who they are talking to, and what they're using social media for. I think that kids need to know that social media can be a wonderful tool to use to connect with people all over the world, but it does need to be monitored especially by the adults that they live with, whether it be their parents or their grandparents or whoever they are responsible for them.
That's true, but there are parents, there are teachers who are not able to, give the time to the young mind. That they are distracting themselves using the social media. That's what my intention. So, is there any such mechanism we can develop that they can be controlled very well?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean to say, can they be controlled properly? Do you have any such mechanism with us? Simply monitoring or anything else we can use?
Yes, it definitely needs to be controlled and monitored for sure, which unfortunately is harder for some children than it is for others.
More than its benefits, becoming more dangerous for the young minds nowadays.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
What do you say about this?
About how dangerous it could be?
No, the misuse of social media, then benefits, what I presume. They are mostly investing the time on the social media than making a good, better use of the social media. It's my perception. What do you say about this, ma'am?
I would say that social media can be a great tool, or it can also be a dangerous tool. And so I tell parents here in the U.S. that their children should not be on social media unless their parents are able to actively monitor it. If they are not able to see it and see what their children are doing, then their children shouldn't do it. I do not think that children should have phones or phones of their own until they are old enough to be responsible and how to use it. So as a teacher, we can tell them these things, but it's really up to the parents, up to the people that are in charge of the children to help them manage that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you. Okay.
Good evening, Dr. Bedkar, sir, principal, sir, and good morning, ma'am. Wonderful presentation you have made. And really, it has the element of child education along with the child psychology also. And I think the children are having a great power of imagination, and you are really creating, you're bringing the world close to them rather than they are going to the world. And I think today we had a world tour, and we could also feel, that various places and space, how the people are there and what kind of monuments are there, and so many things we can learn. Wonderful presentation, ma'am. So I think children must be getting inspired, and I think they are getting, prepared for their future. What I feel, that, how to travel and how to go away, away from your native and your place, and how to be there with that particular place, because there are so many facets, you have talked about some monuments and some animals. But what I feel, that the people are little different. Their language is different. Their pronunciations are different. So how you are going to get acquainted with that kind of a scenario, how you're going to communicate with the people, in some places the English is also not present. So how you're going to communicate, so we should know some few terminologies of them. So that is how we can communicate with them. So that is one part. And another one is very important part, what I feel that, you were asking what kind of things you would like to carry. And you had shown some pictures over there. But I think, one more thing we have to add, that medicines. I belong to medical field. I'm a doctor. So naturally, the persons who are suffering with the illness, they should carry the medications, because what kind of brand and what kind of, medicines are available at my place may not be there at other place. So when we are taking those medicines, one has to be very careful whether it is allowed in that particular state or no. We have to clarify this also, because many of the time it happens my other abroad patients, some medicines are restricted, so we cannot send them over there. So that is also there. And there is one science that how you will maintain your health, with the atmosphere, environment, and various conditions, and the different kind of foods are available. And how you're going to be there with that kind of scenario. So there is a science what is called as the emporiatrics, and how to maintain health when you are traveling. So I think that is also one of the very important elements we should talk about with the students also, and I think everyone. In fact, when we are traveling, we are also doing a small rehearsal at our place only. We plan, we chop out, we really take out the air tickets and boarding pass and everything. So we plan before that, and I think you are preparing them much before. So that is a wonderful thing. And I remember one of the encyclopedia, the Britannica, I was used to go with, whenever I used to get a leisure time. I was clicking on the map and I was going into that particular country, and the information about the politics, about the history, about the culture, about the food, about the people, and we can learn so many things sitting at one place. And I think that is the beauty of social media and the digital, literacy. So we can see the world from my place, sitting at one place. So that is wonderful thing what you have explained today. And yes, definitely teaching to the children, and getting them into the lecture hall is really a big task. And I think such interesting things, if you are doing plane construction, you are doing in a classroom, that is a wonderful thing. And really, the student must be enjoying. I felt myself, I'm becoming child and I'm sitting in your classroom. So that is a great thing, I imagine. And a wonderful thing, definitely we have to think about this. The children are very raw, and their mind, is a very absorbent. They absorb very easily. If suppose, the adult mind little, they resist. They are having some prejudices. But the children are wonderful, you'll find they really learn a lot like this. So thank you, ma'am. Wonderful presentation you have made today. And great, that simulation you have made. And I think in medical field also, we are doing some kind of simulations like this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you. There's so much we can teach kids about the world. You're right. All right.
Anybody else from the participants?
May I, sir? Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. Please welcome.
A very good evening to you, Dr. Bedkar, sir, and all the esteemed delegates from India. And a very good morning to you, Trisha, ma'am. Your presentation took me back to the time when I was studying in Bachelor of Education, and I studied the travel method for teaching the geography to the students. And this, I think, was the model lesson that you presented through your presentation. And the virtual trips you made to various places like China and Cuba and many other places of the world. So it was a wonderful presentation. And as the doctor has already said, that it was the simulation. I really appreciate your efforts to make students feel like they are really flying in the planes, and the boarding passes and all the technical things that you arrange. And you yourself working as the crew on the plane, and it was a wonderful thing. I could see that it's the thing that you really it engages students in learning. So that was wonderful efforts you took. And the other thing, I could see that it was not just the geography class; it was the arts class also. So. I don't have any query, but I really take this opportunity to congratulate you for this wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So thank you so much, Dr. Badiuddin sir, Honorable Dr. Swanand Shukla sir, as well as Vijbal Karwande sir, for your queries and appreciation to the session. Thanks a lot. Now I request the chief organizer of the series, Honorable Dr. M. Bedkar sir, the ideal principal of Sri Kumaraswamy Mahavidyalaya Avsa, to conclude the session. You are welcome.
Question, question answer is finished.
Thank you so much. Speaking of
Question-
students, though,
question
my
answer.
students do need to come back to the classroom in just a moment. So I do need to get going because I do have to continue back with teaching my students for the day. But thank you so much, everybody. I would love to stay in touch. So if you are on LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn. Dr. Betkar, I could also share my email too. That would be fine too. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I move towards the vote of thanks. As we know, all dear participants, Sri Kumaraswamy Mahavidyalaya Avsa, District Latur in Maharashtra State, is organizing a world record series as well as daily webinar series and internationally conference every day. So for today's session, there was on dais Honorable Trisha DePasquale Madam. She was from United States and explained a nice lecture about the topic inspiring young minds, where Madam have covered all the points regarding the topic, also highlighted different how to travel there, then the passport adventure, and what are the things we have to carry, that the packing list and American adventures. Means ma'am have really you explained very nicely, clearly in a simple language, though it was enhanced, but we understood, and we are very happy to listen you in the today's session. So you have paid your very valuable time to the series. So I'm very, very thankful to you for being with us and delivered a nice lecture. I also thanks the chief organizer of the series, Honorable Dr. M. Bedkar sir. Also thanks